Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to look at Chaos Terminators. Terminators are an interesting one for me because in the many years I've been playing this game, I don't really use Terminators, and I can't think why. It's just never really happened for me. I'm now more interested in them with 8th. They have seen quite a bit of a power boost in certain senses, though there is key weaknesses to defeating them as well. But yeah, I'm quite interested because they do have a lot of options and they bring something to especially Chaos Space Marines, something quite interesting for them. So how this works is that I sort of begin the segment by looking at the unit's entry, look at stats, weapons and war gear that they have available to them, special abilities that are available in the Codex. From there I'm going to look at loadouts and suggested roles for them, ways that you can use them that I think are ideal. I then speak about Legion traits, which might be, if they are applicable, psychic abilities that may be useful, and also stratagem recommendations. So yeah, let's have a look at the Chaos Terminators. So their stats are 5-inch movement, so for the durability, they have lost an inch of movement, which kind of not a bad thing, can deal with that. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, what you'd expect from your sort of standard Marines. Strength and toughness 4. Now, I would love Terminators and things to be at least toughness 5, but very few do get that, and it might be asking for too much. At the end of the day, it's kind of not augmenting soldier, they do get a 2+ save, so fair enough. 2 wounds, so that's interesting on that side that, you know, they didn't get a toughness bonus, but they did get a wound bonus on Terminators, and certainly from 7th edition to 8th, getting that extra wound has made a heck of a difference. Still, there's ways around it, but it does make it a lot more efficient in taking Terminators. 2 attacks apiece with 3 on the champion. Again, I think they were 1 attack apiece previously in 7th, but it's been so long since I played it I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. So extra attack is also really nice. Leadership 8 with 9 on the champion. So again, I think that's standard sort of chosen sort of Marine stuff. So they are slightly braver than most normal Marines. Just means they're sticking about. If a lot of them do get wiped and you need to take a morale test, you're a bit braver. And a 2+ save. Standard for Terminator, always good. Good way to shrug off small arms fire. So yeah, Chaos Terminators come with 5 units in 5 models in the unit, and they are all armed with Combi Bolter and Power Axe. So I won't go into all those sort of weapons in detail because a lot of them, some of them are, you know, generalist ones. The only one that is a specialist thing I think mainly towards them is the Reaper autocannon, which is a 36-inch range gun, so it is quite far range. Heavy 4, strength 7, -1 AP, 1 damage. Not bad in terms of everything. However, if you look at sort of the options for Chaos Terminators in terms of war gear, I'm not a big fan of the Reaper autocannon, but I'll go into that just when I sort of talk about their loadouts. So yeah, plenty of options in terms there. You know, any model can replace their Combi Bolt with one of the combi weapons. Any model will replace Power Axe with one of the Terminator melee weapons. Any model may replace its Combi Bolter and Power Axe for a pair of Lightning Claws. For every 5 models in the unit, 1 Terminator may replace his Combi Bolter for a Heavy Flamer and Autocannon, and 1 may take Chaos Icon. Plenty of options on these guys, so you know, choosing their role is very important, and they do fill in a couple of niches. Abilities, they've got Death to the False Emperor. Not going to go into it because it's really long, but basically, you know, against Imperium units, 6 to hit, you get an extra attack. Yep, 6+, you do well. Terminator armor, Chaos Terminators and Terminator champions have 5+ invul. Again, something that's pretty much been, you know, synonymous with Terminators is obviously having a basic 2+ save and 5+ invul. Really augments their idea of being extremely survivable. And Teleport Strike, during deployment, you can set up this unit in the Teleportarium chamber instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, the unit can use Teleport Strike to arrive on the battlefield. Set it up anywhere on the battlefield, more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. So yeah, and Deep Strike as well. You know, if you've played this game for a while, it's kind of synonymous that Terminators have high survivability, they deep strike in, and they can do a fair bit of damage and just become quite tricky to move. So yeah, that's everything in the book. So what I'm going to talk about is sort of how I see the best ways to, you know, sort of get the most out of your Terminators. So we now have Terminators, and it's interesting to see sort of their progress from 7th to 8th. Having 2 wounds is a huge advantage, and 2 attacks apiece certainly fills a huge gap for them that was maybe a weakness beforehand. This does still mean they have a few key weaknesses, and this is certainly plasma weapons, specifically rapid firing plasma weapons. When supercharged en masse, you know, nothing loves stripping back Terminators than rapid fire plasma. Even at the risk of killing your own troops, you know, for every Terminator you do kill, plasma sort of made its points back. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, with Terminators, although they have some advantages that have came forwards, you know, this high sort of survivability, small arm fires, they're going to pretty much shrug off most of it. Terminators will attract a certain amount of firepower that will, quite frankly, there's a few pieces that are designed to really bring them down. Tragically, for the Ruinous Powers, we don't have access to the almighty Storm Shield, and goodness, I hate Storm Shields. Those loyalists getting their 3-up invulnerable save, just really, I hate it so much, you know. So yeah, Chaos Terminators don't get that option, but with that they do have quite a few. So let's go into them. So I'm going to talk about loadouts in 2 different sections. Their ranged loadout and then their close combat loadout, which they can take. And I'm pretty sure you can take always a ranged weapon and a close combat weapon unless you take Lightning Claws. So yeah, ranged. First one is all the Plasma Terminator Edition. So similar to Chosen, when you take a unit with Combi Plasma, why is this good? Taking all Combi Plasma. Well, Plasma is pretty darn good. Being able to deep strike and still take a hit means these guys will become a huge threat priority for your opponent. You know, however, to get the most out of these guys, it's highly suggested that if you are taking a huge amount of plasma, so you're taking a 10-man squad, all with plasma, you deep strike in, you rapid fire range, some of them are going to fry. So you're going to want to take probably a Chaos Lord along with them, with either a jump pack or Terminator armor, just to go next to them and give them sort of, when they supercharge, they get reroll 1s, and it should mean less, if not none, will fry themselves, and you'll get more hits, which is excellent. There's plenty of stratagems to go alongside this, psychic abilities to get the most out of this. The only disadvantage with taking so much plasma on Terminators is ludicrously expensive to do so. Like seriously, you'll rack up some amount of points fielding like that. However, I'll go into some stratagems, psychic abilities, which make this very terrifying. Next one I've got is Dakka. Essentially, you know, this is a unit of Terminators armed with Combi Bolters, and just Combi Bolters. You know, no Combi Flamer, no Combi Melta, no Combi Plasma, just Combi Bolter, and the obvious close combat weapons and icons if needed. Why just Combi Bolters? Well, this works great as a sort of shock factor versus hordes. Rapid Fire 2 is on a 10-man squad, usually deep striking right next to Horde, is going to be 40 shots right in their face, which, you know, can pretty much tear the heart out of a Horde pretty effectively. I've also had sort of like a 30-man Orc boy unit try and tear apart like 5 Terminators, and you know, it was, you know, pretty darn difficult for the boys. You know, they had, I think I was actually playing as the Orcs. I was trying to tear down Terminators, they just weren't dying. The Terminators didn't have enough attacks to handle all the boys, and it just reached about a 4-turn stalemate. So Hordes can be a bit of a tricky one when it does come to dealing with them with Terminators. Having this volume amount of shots, 40 shots, you know, deep striking in straight into a Horde's face, does give you a huge tactical advantage against Hordes to sort of stem the tide. The other advantage is it's quite a lot cheaper than Combi Plasma to field. You know, you'll save quite a lot of points. So there's nothing wrong with the Combi Bolter option if you are going to be facing a force that maybe doesn't have so much armor save. Hordes, maybe demons and harlequins, you might actually see a bigger advantage just taking Combi Bolters, in my mind anyway. In terms of the heavy flamer and Reaper autocannon, you can take, I think, 1 for every 5 models in the unit. It's a bit of a tricky one. I argue the best way to deploy Terminators is deep striking to get the most out of your rapid fire and combat weapons. So the heavy flamer, when deep striking, will not be able to hit, so you'll have to wait a turn to actually get an advantage of it, unless you get charged, in which case you can overwatch. But if something is charging your Terminator squad confidently, I don't think a heavy flamer will actually deter them. Equally, the Reaper autocannon, on the other hand, I find to be underwhelming for its cost. So it is 4 shots at high strength, -1 AP, but you'll most likely be moving with your Terminators, moving into rapid fire range or to get into combat range or deep strike in. So that means most of the time you're going to be -1 to hit, because you've moved, and so thus you're taking a lot more shots, higher strength, -1 AP, but you're also forced to hit most of the time, which is a bit of a pain. Honestly, for its points, I'm kinda happier just taking the Combi Bolter within rapid fire range. I mean, it puts out just about the same amount of shots, less strength, less AP, but a higher chance to hit on the move, which is kind of an advantage in on itself. Or you can go with Plasma, in which case, you've got, in supercharged mode, well, essentially you've got the same, but you've got less attacks, you've got higher AP, your strength's same except when supercharged, and you can cause more damage when you're supercharged. So the Reaper autocannon and heavy flamer, I'm just not convinced with Terminators. I just don't see the main advantages of them when you could either go take them all with certain weapons and have them fill in a specific role. So yeah, in terms of ranged, my 2 favourite loadouts there, just to summarise it, is obviously Combi Plasma and Combi Bolter for 2 different reasons, but certainly both extremely useful for what they do. So yeah, melee. Not only Terminators got the ability to deal with stuff, in range, they're quite deadly in combat too. So having that extra attack does make them a little bit more of a versatile unit here. So what I begin with is my Axe Terminator Edition. So yeah, this may be similar to what I discussed in my Chosen video, seeing as they both have 2 attacks, power weapon options, etc. I'm honestly happy with the Power Axe, and it's sort of my go-to default power weapon. Makes him strength 5, -2 AP, all pretty good, meaning you can throw in pretty much just about anything pretty evenly. Against Xenos with toughness 3, I would probably recommend a Maul. Power Maul, reason being is that you're probably going to be wounding them on 2+, and anything with toughness 3, a lot of them either have very poor armor saves to begin with, such as some Elder units, Dark Elder, etc., or if you take into account Demons or Harlequins, which case involved saves are better, so we don't really care about the AP, take the higher strength. Power Maul is a better way to go. Finally, we also have Power Sword with its mighty -3 AP, which will rip through armour with pretty much no difficulty. Problem with that is there's no bonus to strength, so it's a bit harder to actually wound. Might be a good option, if possible, to take an Exalted Champion with him, so you get those rerolls to wounds, but the problem is he does not have access to Deep Strike. Deep Strike or major mobility options, can't take a jump pack either, so getting him over to the Terminators might be actually quite difficult. I suppose you could roll them all up into a Land Raider and Unleash. That's one way to maybe do it, if you are so inclined to go down a combat route. However, we've also got the option of Power Fist as well. This will help a unit with tougher units, multiple wound units, certainly punch them a lot harder. The consequence of this is -1 to hit and pretty much giving up death to the False Emperor in its entirety, unless you obviously bring buffs. Overall, I'm sort of not convinced by Power Fists, unless you know you're going after such a big unit, and even then that unit may also be quite threatening to your Terminators, especially if it's multiple damage as well. But if you do go down the route of taking Power Fists, it may be prudent to take the Terminators with Abaddon or a Dark Apostle, something to give you those rerolls to hit, just to get you the maximum amount of hits possible. So yeah, sorry. A note on Lightning Claws. I'm not sure how I feel exchanging Combi Bolter and the power weapon for these. It's a bit of an unusual one. It'll make you formidable in combat, you know, with an extra attack if you take them in pairs, reroll wounds, and it does mean, you know, you'll shred one wound opponents in combat absolutely to bits, because you've got good AP as well. Certainly good against hordes. However, I find that ability to lose your your combi weapon in order to get this is a little bit, it's not ideal. I think having the ability to take your combi weapon and also power axe is quite powerful and makes them a threat in multiple different phases, which is kind of important, and there's many stratagems to augment this as well. So yeah, just a quick note to mention on icons, this is going to be very similar to Chosen, and it's kind of my go-to icon when talking about them. If you're Khorne for the unit and you're going for combat, because of course you're Khorne, then Icon of Wrath is a must, because being able to reroll charge is essential. Secondly, Slaanesh, favourite Terminators will always take the icon when fighting Imperials, because 5 up to Death to the False Emperor is awesome. Against anything else, it's debatable. And the other icons, well, they're debatable as well. Their uses can be there, except for Icon of Flame, I just can't work out. Legion traits. So Terminators are an interesting unit because they can fulfill both ranged combat, you know, to a degree, and they also have good mobility options, so they cover a lot of stuff already, and certainly Legion traits for Chaos do cover a lot of mobility options to help them on that side, and also combat ones. So it's interesting that they can see a few advantages from there, but none that I'd say are like completely, you know, absolutely stellar. But I'll speak about a few of them. So Iron Warriors, Siege Lords. Enemy units attacked by this unit with this trait do not gain any bonus to their saving throws in cover. In addition, you can reroll failed wound rolls for a unit with this trait when they target a building. So I recommend this one with Chosen. As I said, it was okay because they have, you know, quite good ranged. I said this was good for Chosen because you've got a wide variety of weapons. This is kind of the same for Terminators. However, because you've got those options of weapons, Terminators also have a very good means of deployment, i.e. their deep strike ability. So yeah, it allows you to basically deep strike in, and if there's like an opponent who's got like power armor, devastators in cover against small arms fire, that's going to be 2+ save, which is going to make them ridiculously hard to move, you know, which is kind of a pain. So if you go in, for instance, you take your rapid fire Combi Bolter, deep strike in, it's going to stop that 2+ save, instead it's going to become a 3+ save. Will it shift them all? Maybe not, but it will certainly kill a few more by weight of dice than there should have been defeated if you do take Siege Lords, because you can roll cover, which is kind of good. With Plasma, yeah, kind of helps, you know, because it means that you're -2 AP rather than you know, instead of you being -2 AP, because they've obviously augmented one through cover, you're getting the full advantage of your -3 AP. But generally still -2 AP is pretty awesome, you know, so ignoring the cover is not that essential when you've got Plasma, but it still does help. It just means because obviously you have you know, sort of the ranged abilities to deep strike in, and if there's a vulnerable unit that's hunkered down in cover, wipe them out. Also, as an AdMech player, absolutely hate when people ignore my cover with Shroud Sam, because it's kind of like AdMech sort of go-to. You know, you're like, ah, well, first turn, I'm in cover from a whole army, not against Iron Warriors. Cool, so the next one we will speak about will be World Eater's Butcher's Nails. When a unit with this trait makes a successful charge, you can make one additional attack with each of its models in the subsequent fight phase. So, I'm going to probably go off track here. Till we see some dedicated Terminator units for World Eaters, and we have seen Scarab Cull, Blight Lords, so you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. You know, Terminators with 3 attacks on the charge, or 4 for the champion, armed with various power weapons, or if you're into Lightning Claws, with their endurance, does make them a real threat. You know what I like, you know, it's pretty good. You know, hopefully I want to see is that when, you know, if they do, there's nothing talked about yet, but you know, with the route of bringing out these sort of codexes, if we do get a codex World Eaters, we're going to see some crazy cool Terminators here. I mean, you know, imagine Terminators with Blood for the Blood Gods, which essentially you attack twice in combat. It's going to be all kinds of goodness. Either way, you know, I'm sort of maybe speculating on things in the future. Still, having that many attacks, getting an extra one in Terminators is quite nice. So you do get a bit of use out of that. Lastly, I feel I should mention Alpha Legion hidden in plain sight. Usually awesome, but for Terminators it is debatable. Terminators are either going to deep strike in, so they're going to be really close to your opponent, or possibly right in a Land Raider. So you're possibly going to struggle to get the full benefit of this, this trait. Certainly a stratagem is not as much use because you already have deep strike. The main thing I'd say is that with clever positioning, you can be -1 to hit the Terminators. This does ultimately dissuade your opponent from firing plasma at them, because it means you do fry your own units on a 1 or a 2, but that can maybe, you know, dictate where your Terminator is going to go, and rather than being as fully aggressive with Terminators as you should be. You should be aggressive with Terminators. They like to be in mid-range in combat, so you know, staying more than 12 inches away doesn't sound like fun. So it's going to be one time I'm going to say Alpha Legion hidden in plain sight, maybe not. Let me know what you think on that one. I will speak about stuff later on where actually I say it's pretty awesome, so I do contradict myself. You'll see in a minute. Psychic abilities, Prescience. Warp Charge 7. If manifested, select a Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. You can add 1 hit to all hit rolls made for that unit until the next Psychic phase. So yeah, Terminators in the right position may be the best unit in the Codex for Prescience. Maybe. The reason for this is that Prescience lasts as a bonus during both the shooting and fight phase, and during you know, your next Psychic phase. So Terminator is going to be a real threat in both. You know, 10-man squads with 40 bolter shots is awesome. Hitting on 2+ is going to hurt. Hit 20 supercharged plasma shots in a 10-man squad, 20 rapid firing plasma shots. Hitting on 2+ with no chance of killing yourself is wonderful, to use, you know, the technical term. Add in the fact that then afterwards in combat you've got your power weapons or various weapons as well. Hitting on 2+, activating Death to the False Emperor on 5+. You know, except for Power Fist, they're not going to get as much use, so they can then activate Death to the False Emperor and hit 3+. Generally, because this does augment you in the shooting and fight phase, this unit can do both quite well, so yeah, it does make them a serious contender for Prescience, which is an excellent ability as such. Next psychic ability I think goes well with them, Death Hex, Warp Charge 8. If manifested, select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of the next psychic phase, that unit cannot take invuln saves. Not an augment as such, but if a sorcerer is going to deep strike with a Terminator unit, give them Prescience so that, you know, they might, you know, hit a little bit more and make their target suffer. You know, you kind of want to make sure that, you know, if you're going to be hitting that hard with Combi Plasma, you're going to want to stop, you know, those invuln saves. You know, nothing's worse that, you know, Terminators want to kill, quite frankly with Plasma, other Terminators, and if they've got Storm Shields, you're going to be quite disappointed. So taking Death Hex along with a Sorcerer, give them Prescience, Death Hex the other unit, you will see those other Terminators drop away quite nicely. Even useful against Orcs. I love using, you know, Orc boys with the custom force field. I hate playing against it. And so taking those mass amount of Combi Bolter shots, when it gives them a 5+ invuln save if they're within that shield, ignoring that as well is also awesome. So yeah, Death Hex just means that some of the weapons that you do bring can be actually brought as a full advantage. So I think certainly with Terminators and the weapons they bring, Death Hex is certainly a good thing to go along with them. Next ability is Miasma of Pestilence, Warp Charge 6, Marker of Nurgle only. If manifested, select a visible Nurgle Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target this unit. So I was trying to decide which of the god-specific sort of spells that works the best, and decided on this one. Why? Because of Plasma. as in, you know, it wants to kill you. This acts as a great way to dissuade your opponent from supercharging into your Terminators, help with all those attacks, you know, basically essentially turning it into -1 to hit means they will kill themselves on a 1 or 8-2. Also, this makes Alpha Legion Terminators with Marker and Nuggle ridiculous. I mean, -2 to hit means that, you know, on a 1 to 3 they fry themselves. That's hilarious. Delightful Agonies, Warp Charge 6, Mark of Slanesh only. If manifested, select a visible Slanesh Heretic Astartes unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next Psychic phase, roll a d6 each time a model in that unit loses a wound. On a 5+, it does not lose that wound. It's probably the best survival spell out of the dedicated god ones. You know, giving you a 2+ save, 5+ invul, 5+ ignore wound when it's suffered. Yep, pretty darn good. Slanesh, you get all the toys. You know, generally that's going to be the best one for survival. Stratagem recommendation, Veterans of the Long War. Cost 1 command point. Use a stratagem when Heretic Astartes infantry or bike unit is selected to attack in the shooting or fight phase, excluding units from the Renegade chapters. You can add 1 to all wound rolls made for the unit until the end of the phase. Easy go-to stratagem, and Terminator's hefty amount of attacks that can do can see some, you know, real advantages with this stratagem. In shooting, a supercharged unit of plasma can, you know, further threaten heavier units significantly, which is great if you have a vast amount of shots. Even Combi Bolter, when you're usually going to be not wounding on high amounts, can further the amount of wounds that you're going to cause. In combat, I think you'll see advantages as well. Just about any power weapon will basically be helped out significantly when you add +1 to wound. Power swords who are lacking in strength but high AP will certainly see a huge advantage. Basically, if you drop in your Terminator units and targeting the unit you want to ensure is going to suffer death, then this is a stratagem that can further help it. Fury of Khorne, Khorne only, cost 3 command points. Use the stratagem at the end of the fight phase, select a Heretic Astartes Khorne infantry or biker unit. That unit can immediately fight again. With the plethora of attacks and weapon choices, yeah, these guys can do a fair bit of damage in combat. I do feel that 3 command points is a bit heavy-handed, but if you just want to get those attacks in, well, wave attacks is good. However, if you want to get a lot of attacks in, we'll talk about the next one. Endless Cacophony, Slanesh only, costs 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the end of your shooting phase, select a Heretic Astartes Slanesh infantry or biker unit. That unit can immediately shoot again. So I can't quite stress that this is where the money is when it comes to fully gunning out, you know, unit of Terminators. Deep strike and rapid fire range with a 10-man squad means a total of 40 plasma gun shots or 80 bolter shots, which will put the fear into just about any opponent. That is excellent for 2 command points. Make sure to bring your psychic abilities with you, you know, if you want to bring in prescience, so all those, you know, 40 or 80 shots hit on 2s, take Veterans Long War to ensure more death. Basically, oh man, Endless Cacophony is an absolute stellar stratagem, goes really well with Terminators. Lastly, the last one to talk about is Let the Galaxy Burn, Black Legion stratagem. 1 command point, use a stratagem when a Black Legion infantry or biker unit is selected to attack in the shooting or fight phase. You can reroll a hit roll, or you can reroll all hit rolls of 1 for that unit for the rest of the phase. If the unit is a Chaos Space Marine squad, you can reroll all failed hit rolls for it instead. So if I was more of a fan of the Black Legion trait, I would use this stratagem a lot. It's an absolute awesome stratagem. Giving access to rerolls to hit, or in Terminus cases, reroll 1s to hit, is extremely useful in case you don't have a Lord or anyone to buff them. You know, it just removes a lot of that danger when you are supercharging plasma. So, and you're going to get more hits as well, you know, whether it be in combat, whether it be in shooting. This is an autumn stratagem. Absolute pain that it is a Black Legion 1 only, but you know what, you can't always get what you want. So yeah, it's absolutely excellent. Really wish I played Black Legion more. wish it wasn't Black Legion only, but it's something to remember, especially if you deep strike in and you don't want to bring a Chaos Lord. If you're Black Legion only, for one command point, you can still bring a fair bit of damage. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the Chaos Terminators. I've not really used them, however I have a whole bunch getting built at the moment. I'm going to get them painted up hopefully in some time in the future and bring them with a plethora of bolters and plasma, and hopefully cause a fair bit of damage with them as well. Love to hear your thoughts on this unit as well. I just feel that obviously with the mobility options and weapon options they can be absolutely excellent. So thanks again guys, hope you enjoyed. Please comment, share, like and subscribe, and check us out on social media and Patreon for some extra content and stuff. Yeah, so thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.